Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of VCTV. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. It has been a very exciting and fun 2020, but we've got a few more episodes left in the year before we wrap up. And apologies for the background noise. Got a lot of stuff going on today here at VCTV. We are preparing for an exciting 2021 as the team is hard at work right now preparing for that. But today's episode, we're going to be talking about something very exciting, a big trend for 2020 and really over the past 10 years and going into the next year as well. And that is low code, no code solutions. A little rhyming, if you will. Low code, no code, low code, no code. We had a little fun with it beforehand, singing some holiday jams. But this is a very important topic. This opens up the entire world of application development to many that don't have to have the engineering or development skills that once required the development of applications, which means something Jose loves to talk about, business inclusion. Now more people than ever can create applications, create new businesses, and create new futures for themselves. But what does that also mean for the future of business? That's what we're going to be talking about today. A big thank you to your audience for tuning in. If you can, 1 second, apologies. There's a lot of stuff happening in the background there with the team. If you can, reach out and also click that subscribe button to tune into more VCTV all day, every day, as we bring together the best and the brightest from around the world to share with you their thoughts and insights and on-the-ground perspective of what's happening in different technologies, industries, and regions around the world. We'd love to have you, so do reach out and we'll find the right spot for you. And also entrepreneurs, what better way to start the year, because we've only got 2 days left. What better way to start 2021 than joining us here on VCTV on our virtual stage with the chance to meet the likes of Jose, Gary, myself, and other VCs. We'd love the chance to hear your pitch about your company, product, or service, also give you real-time feedback, and also build foundational relationships with you and get exposure to our entire live audience. Reach out, we'll find the right spot. Big thank you to the LATOKEN team for making VCTV possible every single day as well. With that, let's go ahead and introduce our guest. Jose, let's kick it off with you.
My name is Jose. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've been
my apologies, everybody. I know we've got a ton of stuff happening in the background today. Again, here at the VCC studios, there is just a ton happening preparing for 2021. So apologies again for the background noise.
The party started already for 2021. Here in
the party has started.
It's
exciting. We got 2 more episodes left of VCTV.
Everyone's excited. Kyle, it's time to go.
We got the coffee to start. We're getting ready for it. Sorry about that, Jose. Go ahead and kick us off with your introduction and background, please. Thank you.
So I was telling you that I've been a serial entrepreneur now for more or less like 4 decades, a business angel for 3, a VC for 3 to 4 years. I've been an advisor in several occasions for government and also for other VCs. I've been a mentor. I've been also how can I say this to you? When I do these selections on venture capital shows itself, you know, I'll also be able there. So what I've been doing is a lot of stuff always around the startup community. Today, I'm focused on business inclusion, and that's what drives me. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. And excited to talk more about business inclusion as well, and especially around, again, low code, no code solutions as well. I'm going to have fun saying that for the next little bit. It's going to be a hoot and holler. And last but not least, our co-pilot today, Jose, Gary.
Hoot and a holler.
Hoot and a holler. You're a country boy from Pennsylvania. Come on, you know that.
I feel like we're brothers on this thing. A hoot and a holler.
We are. Your co-pilot, your brother. We've had a ton of fun here in 2020. We're coming to the close of the year, getting very excited for the next year ahead. Co-pilot with us today, Gary Fowler, the grandmaster himself of artificial intelligence, only shows his face here on VCTV, which we are absolutely happy with, and an absolute pleasure to have you once again, my friend. A little intro, a little background.
Yeah, no, it's great to be here, Kyle. And this has been unusual 2020, I must say. So my name is Gary Fowler. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've done 17 companies now. I've had 2 unicorns. I was on the original management team of Click Software, which was sold to Salesforce for 1.35 billion about 19 months ago. I'm also the co-founder of Viva.ai, one of the top AI companies, specifically in AI HR tech. My co-founder in that is David Yang, a billionaire from Russia, living in Silicon Valley. I love artificial intelligence. AI is the new electricity. I'm also the CEO, president, co-founder of Get Shit Done Venture Studios, a premier venture studio focusing on taking companies global, utilizing Silicon Valley as a port to the rest of the world. And we're curating companies from all over Africa, Australia, Indonesia, Germany, I mean, you name it. And it's a great time. And with this digital transformation, in specifically with VCTV, I mean, we can reach everywhere at any time, at any place. So it's very cool. Or as they say, my daughter says, dope.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And you're right. Also, you called out so many great things. I mean, you mentioned tons of emerging markets, GSD, so getting shit done, which we're going to be referencing to today's topic. Also around artificial intelligence, which plays again a huge role in this new wave of application development. But most of all, let's turn back the clock for a second. Low code, no code solutions are not new. We've had these around for many years. One of my first companies was actually building a low code or no code solution for people to use. We saw the early days of this around Heroku and development around Ruby or Ruby on Rails have been a very early version of what this has become today over the last decade. And now we're seeing this, the softwares come out or applications and platforms come out that are raising, single to double to now triple digits, millions of dollars around this type of offering. Being able to jump in, sign up, make an account, click, boom. There's an asterisk in there. I know there's a lot more to that, but just for today's discussion, very easily walk through, build an application and launch it. Jose, you focus on business inclusion. Gary, you're on AI. Let's start with you today, Jose. I mean, first off, what does this all look like from your standpoint? What does the world of low code, no code look like from your world of venture? But more importantly, what does this mean for the future of business inclusion? So
let me put it like this. So far, what we have been looking at is that programming has been limited to a class of people, which is called engineering, right? But in essence, what these engineers do, they translate a process, a business model into a coding, which eventually becomes a program, which can be an app in a smartphone or just a web services or a standalone in the company itself. So this has been more or less now since coding has started like 30 years. All these languages, they have been upgrading themselves, not by accident. Now Ruby on Rails is already a high-end late stage language, which makes it much simpler to program. But all these languages, they are specific in a certain area. The reason why low code and no code started appearing, and the first time I saw it was 15 years ago with a Brazilian product which was called Maker. I can tell you that today we have already several companies which are billion-dollar companies in this arena. Right? It's not small. But they have been building in the beginning solutions that were focused on big companies, right? To manage these processes. But nowadays, we're getting into a different segmentation. And what we are trying to do is bring down this coding development to the person who has experience in the business model and in the processes itself, without having the need to touch any coding himself, just by drag and drop and filling in some forms. And we have a lot of solutions on that on the market already. I'll just give you an example. 10 years ago, if you would like to build a website, right, was a headache, right? Today, you can build a website by yourself without any coding, zero. You just go online, you drag and drop it, you make it, that's it. So it means that it went from web developers up to, let's say, marketeers or designers themselves that don't need to have any knowledge of coding anymore, almost no coding, right? So that's where the industry will move on to. At the end, we will have two classes. One are the guys that use the no-code systems or people's development, and will be able to develop all these projects, by themselves. And then we have still programmers that are developing these. Some people call them. It's very interesting. If you ask a technician how you look at this, right? Because you have so many solutions on the market, right? We sell ourselves. We use a solution which comes from South America, from Uruguay. And when I asked them, so if you look at this, right? Because what you have is a software code that is producing other software codes. So if you look at this, are you looking at this as a code, a new type of language, or are you looking at it as a platform? And the engineers themselves, it's very funny to see that some say, well, it's a language, and others say, well, it's a platform. They themselves don't know exactly, what it is, because it's also quite new for them. But the big advantage that I see is like threefold. One is that you can start doing people's development, which the salaries or the payroll is much lower, and you get them immediately to the guys who understand the business model and the processes. That's one thing. The second thing is that you don't need to patch your softwares anymore, because every 3 years you are forced to patch your softwares more or less, because technology moves on. But with a low-code solution, what you can do is they are responsible to update their software to be compatible with all the languages that you can export to. So it's not your problem, right? So you are basically before this line. So if you make some changes and you push the button again, the new code is immediately updated in the latest version of that code that's coming out, right? So you can export, as an example, to .NET, Android, iOS, or whatever. Mm-hmm. And this is a very big advantage. And the third point is that the time to market, right? I think this is probably one of the biggest challenges that every software company has, is that, okay, from the beginning that you have the inception, the idea, the development of the look and feel, and getting it coded, et cetera, it takes still a huge, long time to get it done. If you have these solutions, you can drag and drop it very fast. Okay, you can come up with let's call it a beta. Okay, in a few months, right? And to get a beta in a few months, which is very complex, very fast, I would say it's almost impossible. Even if you have 100 developers working for you today, you still have the same hurdles. Last thing, and then I move it on to back to you, is every time a programmer, right, develops a code, he has his own mindset. Programmer is like an individual who has a universe by itself, and you need to understand his way of thinking. The next programmer that comes, if he doesn't understand the way of thinking of the previous programmer, and he is going to spend a lot of time to read it and understand the philosophy, then you are better off just building it again from scratch, because it's probably cheaper and faster just to recode it than taking it from somebody else over. So I will leave it like that.
It's a good point you bring up. I mean, building something is a work of art, right? There's so much vision and thought and mind share that goes into it as well. And you're bringing up a great point that with low code or no code solutions, it's more of this plug and play where you don't necessarily have to have that as you once before. I mean, I remember building my first website and then application and then platform, and it's a very, very involved process. And then bringing someone else in, there's so much education that has to happen as well. So great point. Thank you, Jose. Gary, to you, current state of low code, no code as you're seeing it. And then I want to get to how AI is going to play into the future. But first, current state, and then we'll come back to AI.
Yeah, I mean, the situation is, Jose's right on target. I mean, think about the opportunity. We're really, I remember back in the DOS-based systems, I got to tell you, Kyle, DOS. I remember doing BASIC. And I mean, think about it. We've now opened up the opportunity because now you can have a broad group of folks involved in that development, and not only, the developers, application developers, but really end users. So imagine it, think differently. I mean, imagine the different ways that they're going to look at it. So on one side, I'm extremely excited about it because this had to happen to make it easier. And if you look about the history, and having been, when I was in graduate school, having been in kind of the beginning of it, right? It was, this evolution that takes place is basically for the masses. You don't have to be a computer scientist to be able to do your own, application development. It's very interesting. And what it does is it gives I talk about cultural diversity a lot and diversity within teams. This really adds to it because it doesn't matter if you're in marketing or business development or HR. I mean, it gives everybody, the democratization of opportunity to be able to partake. So I like it. And it's interesting. At the same time, there's some security concerns and compliant concerns, right? Especially when you have apps that are using consumer data. And so you're developing very, very quickly. The challenges, are we really looking at how compliant they are? So those are some of the things that we need to take a look at. And, on one side, how compliant; on the other side, because you're able to develop so quickly, there's innovation within security. So it's like, the good, bad, and the ugly of it. So it's quite interesting, but it is broadening the opportunity. And it's, imagine being able to generate better secure workflows because you've got this capability to do it visually. I love it, actually. So where we are, this is just the evolution. I mean, it's the evolution. I see it, it's step by step, right? So when we started and we were doing DOS-based programming in a long, long time ago, and to where we are today, it's like, it's just, you don't have to be a geek with a propeller on your hat to be able to do it. It's an open world and democratized for everybody. So it's interesting.
Right. Well, and it just brings up another great point. And before we get to where the future goes with this, because there's so many great examples. I mean, you look on Product Hunt right now, you can find several platforms in various pieces that provide these solutions. I mean, even looking at something like Airtable and the functionalities that Airtable has built in to be able to do, again, some easy, quick deployments and development into an environment. I mean, you can spin up an application very quickly as well. So it's just, again, this is kind of the route we were going, to both of your points. But Gary, AI. So now that we have the ability, we've gone from our DOS days. I think we're all included in that. Went from our DOS days to our Ruby and PHP, HTML days to this more advanced world of C and Java and everything else. A ton of fun stuff here. Now,
the old Sun Microsystems Solaris.
There you go. We've advanced past Sun Microsystems to today's world, and now AI. So today we can all four go and quickly build an application, very low touch, limited code, as Jose brought up. Now let's throw AI into this mix. What does that do? What does that change the game when AI is now a part of this conversation? Will we have to have any coding skills, or will we just say, we want to do A and B, make it happen?
We're moving in that direction, Kyle. We're moving in that direction. And the situation is, so we want to, now remember what you just said. This is what we want, right? Who's we, Kyle? Who's we? All of us on the call, or all of us in our notebooks?
That's a fair question. That is a fair question, because there is a split, I would argue, from the research I've done. There's a very good split. There is those that have, first off, we're not getting rid of full deep dive code solutions. Those will always be there. They have to be there. Infrastructure needs to be built. And coming from someone who's been an engineer and loves that world, it's not going away. Low code and no code solutions have a place in the market to open up and expand. And if anything, provide quick, rapid deployment solutions, to Jose's point, for some of those deep infrastructure things that are built. Easy peasy. Now, when we throw AI on top of that, it opens up a new market. And the who may be marketers. It may be quick MVP betas to just prove out a thesis to then go and build something out a little bit more robust and deeper as well. So I'm just throwing out some things there. I think you're bringing up a good point is who's we.
So, I mean, we use unsupervised AI, right? So I started on that almost 5 years ago. And we were right in the forefront of some of the things that were quite interesting happening. But imagine the system makes its own decisions, right? What is the most efficient way to do this marketing? I don't even have to tell it what to do. And quite frankly, it's based on logic and a lot of available data points. It may make quite a lot better decisions. So, I mean, it may be, it's not visual anymore. It's just done. You know what I mean? It's like get it done on steroids.
Well, I told you we were going to talk about get shit done. We were going to talk about GSD today. So there you go.
It's absolutely. And so this new world, I mean, think about what we're talking about. This is what you're exactly saying. It's what's happening today. The evolution's already started. So, as we started this step-by-step approach, we are moving from the semi-supervised, unsupervised AI, and that unsupervised AI is going to be able to deal now. Kyle, add quantum computers into this thing.
All right, we're coming back on quantum. I want to throw GTP3. So the evolution of that coming out, people doing some initial testing. So I know it's still in development, but even that was a progression in this. I mean, what type of impact does something like that have on the future of application development?
It's going to be a different world, Kyle. I mean, it's going to be a world that is a lot different. We're not going to be, the one thing we talk about, and I've been thinking about a lot lately. I mean, incredible amount. I've had some discussions with several quantum physicists, with some friends that are, top billionaire business folks recently. And the world's changing. And so as we look at it today with where we're going to have solutions that start to find their own way. I mean, it's just like medicine, right? Think about it. So, we're going to have these smart pills. We're going to have all these different sensors that'll course correct. The question is, what's the end goal, right? What is the end goal? Okay, so you can build your own. The applications can be built by themselves, right? Because you've got unsupervised AI. It's kind of like a Morpheus thing. And I'm talking to Morpheus a lot now. And I mean, it's starting to learn. So you go down through and it's learning a lot. Then it starts connecting together with a lot of different, okay, so I built this for General Electric. I want to build this for Samsung, right? And they start to talk, peer to peer. They start to communicate. Oh, you got a problem? Let me see if I can help. Seriously. And that's what's happening. It's quite interesting, there's, I don't know if the moral dilemma has come up yet, but it's going to come up in the, where do we place in this thing? Where are we in this hierarchy? We process 60,000 complex transactions per day in our brain, right? And so based on Moore's law, soon we're going to, the systems will be at that capability very, very soon. And then what happens next? What happens in the next 18 months? So
it's a great question. So actually, I want to put a pin in that because I want to come back to quantum here in just a moment. But real quick, so Jose and Gary, both of you, as investors, when you're looking at and diligencing a company, right? A company is pitching you and they're pitching you their product. You get into the diligence and you start looking at the application. Does low code or them using a low code or no code solution to build that application have any impact on your decision as an investor to invest in that company?
Can I answer that first? Okay.
Oh, yes, please go ahead. No, go ahead.
From my standpoint, it's the difference between listening to music and actually, writing the music, right? Physically writing it. Mm-hmm. And it's very interesting. I'm not sure. The challenge is, do you understand the fundamentals to be able to really, if there is some type of issue, if something's not right, does that group understand the fundamentals enough to course correct? I'm not sure. That's a problem.
So, and I have another thought on that as well. But before I comment, Jose, to you.
Sorry about that, Jose.
No problem. I would like to answer to this, but also something that Gary said before, which is about the security and the compliance. I think it's an important point. I was just waiting for the opportunity. So the security is like this. If you develop in low code or no code, the security is better because programmers or the guys who develop in these systems, they are forced to work into a certain set of rules. You cannot go out of those rules. So the flexibility that you can be more creative is much less. Okay, but it forces you to go into that set of rules, and the guy who comes afterwards picks up those set of rules immediately because he knows that's how it works. There is no way you can turn it around. So security wise, right, these things become better because everybody knows that quality assurance, gets better if you do things constantly, always in the same routine. And if you have a problem, then you need to switch and solve that issue. That's one. The compliance, in my opinion, is much better because what the first thing you do, which is our case as an example, right? We have a compliance officer, and the compliance officer is involved directly in the development itself. So you don't the developer doesn't need to go ask the compliance officer, what do I need to do here, or how do I need to address this? The compliance officer can go hands-on and do it by himself, right? It's a huge advantage, which suddenly you have multidisciplinary teams that are not depending on the software development to make it happen and to see the result. Everybody works on the development of the software itself. So that's one point. Now, getting back to the last point, I think it depends on the investor. If the investor is tech savvy and he understands what he's investing in and he would like to know, right, it could make a decision on his investment. I'll give you an example. Some of these low-code solutions, because no-code solutions in essence, they don't really still exist 100%. I want to make that clear. Okay. Mm-hmm. So low-code solutions, what happens is some of these low-code solutions, they lock you in. They say they don't, but I can tell you that I did a benchmark with my team, an exhaustive benchmark. It took us like 6 months to get it completed. And one of the things we realized is that they lock you in such a way that if you want to get out, the whole setup that you have made, right, is really very bad outside of the system, because you are going to export it in a certain fashion that doesn't permit you to pick it up and continue to develop in a standardized code as if you would do it initially without the platform itself. So you are forced to get something that you need to patch afterwards. It's not natural anymore. Okay. Although there is one solution in the market, and I don't want to make an advertising here, but there is one solution in the market, which is, I consider it low code. I think the interesting part is that it also has AI embedded to it, and I can talk a little bit about that afterwards. What this solution does is that the code that comes out of it, right? So once you build it up and you export the code, is really native code. So if you want to get out of the system, it's fine, because you get this native code and you can rebuild it further as if it would be never developed by a low-code solution. Okay.
So if just to clarify, so this particular solution or some you're seeing are a kind of in-between step. They help you get started and you can export it out to raw code and then from there continue to build and develop on it. Does that sound right?
Correct. And where the AI comes in, and this is, I think it's the interesting part, and we can build it up further, in the discussion with the quantum computing, which is a different story. But AI today, okay, as it stands today, is that it helps the developer or the guy who is dragging and dropping constantly with, let's say, suggestions on how he can do it in a different way and more efficient. Okay. So the developer always has the decision making, right? Or the low code developer, whatever you want to name it. Some people call them analysts today, because they are not really developers anymore. So they build it up, and the solution constantly is telling, okay, you can also do it like this, or this is more efficient, or do it like that, or let me plug it in immediately. A lot of programming is repetitive actions. So that means that those repetitive actions, they are picked up by the AI mechanism and they are repeated by itself automatically. So you don't need to think about this. So there are a lot of solutions on the market. Okay. So it's not that it's not, there is. Now, quantum computing is a different story, but I leave that to Gary and then we pick it up from there again.
All right, Gary, before we get into quantum computing, you texted me something about GPT-3. I'm gonna read this quote if I can. So this is from the New York Times, I believe, end of July this year, so July 29th, 2020. The reporter said that GPT, that is a tongue twister, 3, which can generate computer code and poetry, so computer code we've talked about, as well as horse, is not just amazing, spooky, and humbling, but it's also it's more than a little terrifying. Anything to add on that?
Well, that's what we talked about, right? That's where we were going.
There you go.
And that's the next level, right? So where do we fit into the picture? I mean, the head of AI for Facebook said the same thing, unsettling. And because of when they spoke to GPT-3, it was rather sexist, rather racist. And so, we've got, before we go out and we start to deploy things, we better make sure, and I've talked about and written about emotion AI and compassion. We better be sure these systems, the training sets are right, because nothing good's going to happen, Kyle. If these systems start to control, the Internet of Things, now I control the grid, now I control the manufacturing, now I control the missiles. I mean, it's like, where does it stop, right? Mm-hmm. And so, and then quantum computers on top of that. And, we don't want to be held captive by our own technology.
So I want to throw that in there. I was going to say a curveball, but you've taught me that lesson that with quantum, that's not the right word to use, since it can destroy a universe. So how does quantum change all of this? Because I don't think it progresses. I think it completely changes the game from what you've taught us about quantum and quantum computing, where it's at and where it's going. What is quantum's role in this going forward for the next 10 years?
Well, let's just say that it's going to be a little bit more than scary.
All right.
The thing is, so we've got the capabilities to do. Look at the Chinese. They just had, now it's not 100 million times, it's billions of times faster than a conventional computer. That was last week. And so having those kind of systems in place, what does it do? Well, nothing's secure. That's door number one. And the situation and how fast can development be done. So imagine you take GPT-3 and that AI, throw it on a quantum computer, and what happens? You got super robot. You got a whole different level, right? And I'm not sure we can even, quite frankly, Kyle, I don't think, humanity understands what the capability of this is going to have, right? This is an entirely different scenario. Hold on a second.
Well, no, it's all right. And to you, Jose, it's a perfect transition. I mean, this is a whole different ball game, if you will. It's a whole different.
My Mac just got fixed, and my guy's here with it. So
look at that. No, you're all good, all good. I mean, it's a perfect transition to Jose. I mean, quantum changes the game. It opens up a whole new world. Most of us still don't understand its true impact on not just our applications, our security, our lives, everything. Jose, to you, I mean, where does quantum play a role in this, from your standpoint?
I've said this once before, and I'm going to reinstate it, right?
Please.
We are on the doorstep of what I call artificial life. Ooh. It's not about artificial intelligence, it's about artificial life. So today we can talk about artificial intelligence and we can talk about quantum computing, and we can talk about a lot of things. But the issue is like this. Once the quantum computer comes out, and if it comes like a commercial version, right, you can imagine what will happen with the non-commercial versions of quantum computing. Like today, right, we have the supercomputers. Now imagine the supercomputer of a super quantum computer, right? Because that's what will happen, right? Okay. And once we get to that point, we really have two problems on our hands. One is that we really are facing artificial life, and I personally don't know how it's going to end up and if we can ever control it. But I strongly believe that maybe if we found out, we're able to find out which is the origins of life itself, because those computers have not only negative impact, they also have a lot of positive impact. Positive impact means that a lot of questions that we have in our human life that are unanswered, like origins of life, the whole subatomic things that run around us, nanotechnology, which is still very principal, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all these things suddenly will have an answer. So we are completely at a different level of life that we will see afterwards. And at that certain point, it may be even possible, right, that you as a living being, if we understand that because in essence, your body is not so important. What's important is your brain. Because everything you feel, see, right,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever you want to do, your body is an instrument for you
Hey,
to
Jose, I got to break in for a second. This sounds like one of those Star Trek episodes with when Leonard Nimoy, Mr. Spock, was there and got put into a computer. I got to tell you, it sounds like it, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, Jose, you're painting a pretty in-depth picture. I mean, with this, I can't believe this is something we're looking at for the next 1 to 3 years. When in your terms of, I mean, challenge me on that for sure. When do you see this becoming really a tipping point that we start to move into that space? Because right now we're in the beginnings of this, right? We've talked all of 2020 as we're coming to a close here. We've talked all of 2020 about how we're in the beginning of this huge transformational decade. And you're talking about something, we've also talked about it moving from physical to digital and living our lives more digitally than ever, but you're adding a new component to this and a very exciting one. When do you see this starting to be a tipping point in us moving in that direction? Your prediction as we head into 2021.
I cannot make a prediction, but what I can tell you for sure, right, is one thing, is that once a commercial quantum computer is out,
oh yes,
military and big companies already have a super quantum computer, and once that happens, definitely, in my opinion, it will be possible what I am telling you. I don't know if it's going to take another 5, another 10, another 15, another 20 years. I foresee that the first quantum computer, not commercial issue, right, is here already for some years. We're just seeing first commercial ones, right, which is everybody talks about. So probably in about 5 years, it may be possible that it's settled. If it's settled in 5 years, right, then look at a 10-year time frame. It would not be impossible for you to have a super quantum computer, okay, in about, I would say, 15 years from now.
Wow, I think that actually might be a little long based on what Gary's been telling us. I think you might be hedging a little high. We actually might be a little less, but I love the prediction.
Yeah, just put it in a time frame. Okay, so if that happens and we are able to solve all these questions that we have, then I think we are really close to be able to understand how we can transmit what's inside a brain, more or less, because it's all electricity, into a virtual environment that can live on. So you don't know.
I love it. 2035, potentially 2036. I'll give you a little leeway on the year since we're about to close out this one. But I appreciate it. All right, so gentlemen, to both of you around, as investors, where are the opportunities? So quick opportunity, if you're looking to make a bet in the low-code, no-code space for the next year, what are you looking for? What is getting you excited? Where do you want to put money? Or for those that are listening, where should they be looking as well? Gary, to you, then Jose, and then I've got one final question from both of you.
Yeah, I mean, the situation. So I'm looking for companies that have deployed, right? They've actually got some customers. I'm looking for companies that have some kind of regional dominance. I'm looking for companies that have some kind of revenue, because it gets rid of a lot of the risk. So from my standpoint, it's just the way our recipe and the way we invest and the way we curate companies. We're looking for companies that have some of that. I think that, this is so if you're out there, please let me know. We're very excited about companies, low code, no code. This is a trend. This is part of the future. This is something that has to be, and this is part of this. You know, I've written about democratization opportunity a number of times, Kyle, and this is part of it. It really opens a playing field. And I like the idea that other, you know, people can get involved that have different perspectives on it, because it makes the technology, it makes the companies a lot stronger. So I'm really excited about it. And where is it? I mean, we're in the dawn of a new era, and this isn't to be, you know, mundane about this. This is like, we are literally at a point in our lives that we can change the very fabric of humanity. I mean, we're already doing it with, think about it. I mean, just with these pharmaceutical companies over the last couple of months, AI and drug discovery, I mean, I directly had conversations with them. This is not like an idea anymore. They're doing it. I mean, that's how, you know, one of Pfizer's ways that they came up with their vaccine is using IBM Watson. So we're in the dawn of a new era. Imagine how fast we're going to be able to figure out, run models, right? And so I'm excited about it, and it's permeating across multiple. So it's not just about the code of GPT-3. It's about doing prose, the style of. I just saw on the internet a Frank Sinatra styled song. I don't know if you saw it, but it was done in the style Frank Sinatra, generated by artificial intelligence. Seriously, the system made a Christmas song in the style of Frank Sinatra with his voice. And so it's happening. I've seen some of this stuff because of what we do with Eva. So I've seen some of it, but it's finally to the point we're talking about systems that are so smart on the GPT-3 side, they can scan the internet and write the news like a journalist, and they can write it for you. And imagine what that is. And now you can come to conclusions on what happens next. They're using predictive models now. I mean, the governments are using predictive models today to forecast what the future is going to be like today. Mm-hmm. So we're in a dawn. I'm excited about it. I'm really, and it's all coming together as one. I don't think a lot of people see it like we do, but you know, this is the Germans have a phrase, Gestalt, the sum of the parts equal the whole. And now we're finally at a point where all these are coming together as one. And it's a great time to be an investor, as long as you do it right. And remember, compassion is critically important. Compassion, build in compassion. We don't want to have systems that are truly just pragmatic, because nothing good's going to happen to us. We don't do things good sometimes. And the systems may say that not necessary.
Right. And I want to pause you right there, because I want to make sure Jose gets great points. I want to make sure Jose gets in, because I have one last question. By the way, just for the audience, it was OpenAI based in San Francisco that created that Frank Sinatra song as well. So if you search OpenAI, Frank Sinatra, SoundCloud, you can get the entire clip, and I'll try to share it in the show notes as well. Thank you, Gary. Jose, to you.
And they created GPT-3, by the way. OpenAI.
Yes, they did. Yes. All exciting at the same time. Yeah, we're all a little speechless and just hearing this on the other speaker. But Jose, to you, as an investor, where are you looking? Where are the opportunities? Super quick, and then again, I'll get to this last question before we close.
So I basically end where Gary picks it up. So basically, we are complementary to each other, because I look for talent that typically doesn't have a running company or is revenue generating. You know, I just look for talent, and essentially talent that can bring a positive impact to what we are doing today. It can be technology, it can be some new ideas, it can also be processes. So anything that we can relate and can use to the business inclusion itself, because business inclusion is not limited to technology itself. We are talking about a very, very broad spectrum, because in essence, what you're doing is you are projecting a social market economy. Now, a social market economy is everything which is around you, right? And all these companies that kick off today, you know, they are also around you. They do parts of this economy itself. So what we are looking for is talent that has parts of this puzzle that is really exciting to us.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jose. Now, the big question as we come to close, we got one more episode left of VCTV here in 2020. What is your big, bold, exciting prediction for 2021? Industry or technology of your choice, both of you, as to where you think things will end next year. Jose, to you first.
Well, you know my answer already. I cannot go around. It's business inclusion. So what I see is that for the first time, definitely in a few hundred years, in 2021, I see that suddenly something is coming to the market that will make business inclusion and that will help to solve a huge global problem that we are going to face in the future. Because imagine the following: all that AI working, all the robots, right? The quantum computer, et cetera, that means that suddenly a huge amount of individuals are not needed into the working process. They have a lot of free time. They may even get what we call world income, right? But even with the world income and all the time that you have available, right, you still are able to get bored, because everybody of us, most of us, we work a minimum of 8 hours a day. That's what it is. So imagine that now suddenly every day you have 8 hours a day free to do something else, right? Mm-hmm. So definitely that's what I'm focused on. And what I see is that we need to have something that will entertain people, right, to cope with that time that we're going to have in the future.
Got it. Where can everyone find you online to continue the conversation?
You can find me on LinkedIn, which is my preferred channel. Just look up for BizMoney or Jose Grasa, and you will find me for certain.
Thank you, Jose. Gary, big, bold 2021 prediction.
Yeah, so I think that there's going to be a lot of the democratization of opportunities around the world, democratization of Silicon Valley. I think Silicon Valley is going to spread and move to places like Texas and Miami and all over. And I like it because what's happening is we're actually giving everybody a better, more even chance of being able to partake. And what we talked about today is part of that, right? So it doesn't matter if I'm a marketeer, it doesn't matter if I'm business development or HR, I can actually partake. And I like that. That's really encouraging for me. AI is a new electricity. Invest in companies that have deep learning, machine learning, make sure there's not a lot of BS. Make sure it really does what they say it's going to do and not just algorithmic math. But it's an exciting time. We're moving from a semi-supervised to an unsupervised to a GPT-3/quantum world. Be wary, make sure we understand what we're getting into, but there's a great opportunity for companies all over the world to partake in this. And with the amount of data around us, we need some help. We need intelligent assistants that can actually help us make our better decisions. So it's encouraging. Anyhow, you can reach me, Gary Fowler, on LinkedIn. You can reach me at Facebook, Gary Fowler. You can reach me on Twitter. I mean, Gary@gsdvs.com. I'd love to hear from you. These are exciting times. And, I'm not sure that 2020 is going to be 2020. I forget about 2020 and look at 2019. But let's go forward. Let's change our lives going forward. That part we can control, and let's move forward. We've adapted during these pandemic times to do things differently. Let's keep it moving forward. Keep the world running, and let's come up with some cures from some incredible things like we've just done with COVID. We did things in record time. Let's do it for a lot of other diseases.
It's gonna make for a very wild set of 20s, the next decade ahead, as you've mentioned as well. And for all of us, all the topics, all the industries, all the technologies we've spoken about over the last year, so much of this is going to be exciting to see how it transforms into 2021 and the next 9 years ahead of that as well, which we've got a very exciting decade in front of us as well. So thank you, Jose and Gary. To your audience, thank you so much for tuning in. If you like what you heard, click subscribe, give us a thumbs up. Do check out the archive on LATOKEN.com. We'd love to have you as well on the show. Thank you, Gary and Jose. So do reach out if you'd like to be an investor to share your thoughts and insights around different technologies, industries, and regions throughout the world. and your on the ground perspective as entrepreneurs looking at how you can take advantage of great opportunities in 2021. Join us here on the virtual stage that we've built just for you on VCTV to pitch each and every one of us as investors interested. There we go. Got so hung up on the low code, no code title there. So interested in your area that we'd love to give you feedback and also build foundational relationships at what you're doing, hearing what you're wanting to build, and also build foundational relationships with our entire VCT community. Reach out. We'd love to find the right spot for you as well next year, looking at the year ahead. And a big thank you to the LA Token team for making VCTV possible every single day. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. You can find Jose, Gary, myself online everywhere 24/7, 365. You can find me on LinkedIn and Twitter at Kyle Ellicott. With that, we'll be back here with more VCTV after a short break.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.